Have you ever sat down to rest, picked up your phone for a quick break, and then suddenly felt guilty for not doing something productive? Why does unplugging feel like laziness instead of health? Even when your mind is exhausted, and who taught us that rest must always be earned, like a reward after suffering? Before we talk about unplugging, we need to understand why switching off feels so wrong in the first place. Modern life quietly trained your brain to stay on all the time. Notifications, emails, news, and messages act like tiny alarms that keep your nervous system alert. Your brain reads constant stimulation as responsibility, importance, even survival. So when you stop, the brain panics and whispers, "You're falling behind." Neuroscience shows that your brain has two main modes. One is the task-focused mode, used for problem-solving, planning, and control. The other is the default mode, active during rest, reflection, and mental recovery. Unplugging activates the second mode, which is essential for emotional balance and creativity. Here's a problem most people don't realize. Society praises the first mode and shames the second. Being busy is seen as disciplined, while resting is seen as weakness. Over time, this belief becomes wired into the brain. This is where guilt comes from. It's not proof that you're lazy. It's a learned emotional response created by years of pressure. Understanding this alone can reduce half of your guilt. The first quick way to unplug without guilt is to reframe rest as maintenance. You don't feel guilty charging your phone because you know it will die without power. Your brain works the same way, but no one taught you that. Rest is not quitting, it's refueling. Medical science confirms that chronic mental stimulation raises cortisol levels. High cortisol damages memory, weakens immunity, and increases anxiety. Short breaks lower cortisol and protect brain cells. So unplugging is not indulgence, it is prevention. The second way is to unplug with intention, not escape. Guilt grows when you unplug randomly, because it feels irresponsible. But planned disconnection sends a different signal to the brain. It tells your mind, this pause has a purpose. For example, saying "I will step away for 20 minutes" creates a boundary. The brain loves clear limits because they reduce uncertainty. Uncertainty is one of the biggest triggers of anxiety. A defined break actually improves focus afterward. The third way is to replace screen time with physical signals of rest. Your nervous system evolved long before smartphones existed. It responds best to movement, breath, and nature. A short walk, stretching, or deep breathing resets the stress response faster than scrolling. Research on neuroplasticity shows that repeated behavior shapes brain wiring. If your breaks always involve screens, the brain never fully rests. It stays stimulated, just in a different way. True unplugging gives the brain silence, not noise. The fourth way is to remember that productivity is not the same as worth. This belief is deeply emotional, not logical. Many people were raised to feel valuable only when useful. That lesson becomes an inner voice that criticizes rest. Psychology calls this the inner taskmaster. It pushes you, even when your body says stop. Ignoring rest to please, this voice leads to burnout, not success. Silencing it starts by noticing it without obeying it. The fifth way is to unplug in small doses, not extremes. You don't need a digital detox or a mountain retreat. Your brain prefers consistency over drama. 5 minutes of true rest repeated daily can rewire stress patterns. Life science research shows that short recovery cycles improve long-term performance. Elite athletes rest strategically between training sessions. They don't train non-stop because it destroys the body. Mental performance follows the same biological rules. The sixth way is to connect unplugging with something meaningful. Prayer, reflection, or gratitude practices calm the nervous system. Across religious traditions, silence is treated as wisdom, not waste. This is not coincidence. It's insight into human nature. When you unplug with reflection, guilt fades. Your mind feels anchored instead of empty. Stillness gains purpose instead of feeling like avoidance. The brain relaxes when rest feels meaningful. The seventh way is to notice how your body reacts after unplugging. Do you feel calmer, clearer, more patient. These are signals your nervous system was overloaded. Your body gives feedback long before words do. Ignoring these signals trains the brain to stay tense. Listening to them builds self-trust, reduces guilt, because you stop needing external validation. You begin to respect your internal limits. Before we move to the remaining ways, pause for a moment. Ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you rested without defending it? What would change if rest felt allowed instead of stolen? In the next part, we'll go deeper into how guilt forms and how to quietly break its grip. Let's continue, because unplugging without guilt is not just about habits, it's about unlearning fear. Most guilt around rest is actually fear in disguise. Fear of falling behind, fear of being judged, fear of wasting time. Once you see that, guilt loses much of its power. The eighth way to unplug without guilt is to understand how attention actually works. Your brain cannot stay focused for long periods, the way machines can. Neuroscience shows that attention naturally rises and falls in cycles. Forcing focus beyond these cycles increases mistakes and mental fatigue. When you unplug at the right time, you work with your brain instead of against it. This is not theory, it's biology. Short mental breaks improve learning and memory consolidation. That means your brain literally becomes smarter when you pause. The ninth way is to stop confusing availability with responsibility. Just because you can respond doesn't mean you should. Constant availability trains others and your own brain too. Expect instant replies. This keeps your nervous system in a permanent alert state. Medical studies link constant alertness to sleep disorders and anxiety. Your brain needs periods where nothing demands a response. Unplugging teaches your system that it is safe to relax. Safety is the foundation of mental health. The 10th way is to unplug before you feel exhausted, not after. Waiting until burnout makes rest feel like failure. Rest taken early feels like wisdom. Rest taken late feels like damage control. This small timing shift changes how your brain interprets unplugging. Think of hunger as an example. Eating before extreme hunger feels normal. Eating only when starving feels desperate and unhealthy. Mental rest follows the same pattern. The 11th way is to notice how often guilt comes from comparison. Seeing others appear busy or successful triggers pressure. Social media shows output, not exhaustion. Your brain compares your inside to their outside. This comparison activates the brain's threat system. Threat creates urgency. Urgency blocks rest. Unplugging breaks this comparison cycle. Distance restores perspective. The 12th way is to detach rest from entertainment. Many people believe rest must be earned through fun or distraction, but true rest is often quiet, simple, even boring at first. Your brain needs boredom to reset its reward system. Dopamine overload from constant stimulation dulls satisfaction. Silence allows dopamine levels to rebalance. This is why unplugging may feel uncomfortable before it feels peaceful. Discomfort is a sign of recalibration, not failure. The 13th way is to redefine discipline. Discipline is not forcing yourself endlessly. Real discipline includes knowing when to stop. Even religious teachings emphasize balance, reflection, and moderation. In many traditions, rest is considered sacred, not because work is bad, but because humans are limited. Limits are not flaws, they are design features. Respecting them is wisdom. Let's talk about logic for a moment. A tool that is never rested breaks faster. A system under constant pressure becomes unstable. Why would the human brain be any different? Life science shows that recovery is part of growth. Muscles grow during rest, not during lifting. Memories strengthen during sleep, not during studying. Growth always happens in the pause. Guilt survives on the idea that stopping is dangerous. But real danger comes from never stopping. Burnout doesn't arrive suddenly. It builds silently. Unplugging interrupts that process. Another overlooked truth is this: if your rest triggers guilt, it means you actually need it. Healthy systems don't panic during recovery. Only overloaded systems do. Pay attention to how children rest. They stop when tired, play when energized. They don't justify rest. They respond to signals. That instinct is trained out of adults. Neuroplasticity means it can be trained back. Every guilt-free pause rewires your stress response. Slowly, rest stops feeling like rebellion. It starts feeling normal again. As we move toward the final part, reflect on this. You are never meant to be constantly accessible, constantly productive, constantly on. Your brain was built for rhythm, not pressure. In the next part, we'll tie everything together and show how unplugging can become a quiet strength, not a struggle. Now let's bring everything together, because unplugging without guilt is not a technique. It's a mindset shift. Once you change how you interpret rest, your behavior follows naturally. The goal is not to escape life, but to return to it with a clearer mind. That is what real unplugging is about. One powerful truth many people miss is this: your brain does not recharge by doing nothing. It recharges by doing less. Even small reductions in stimulation allow neural circuits to recover. This is why short pauses matter more than long, rare breaks. When you unplug, your brain starts processing unfinished thoughts. Psychology calls this mental integration. This is when emotions settle and insights appear. That's why good ideas often come during walks or quiet moments. Guilt often shows up because silence brings awareness. When things slow down, buried thoughts rise. Instead of seeing this as a problem, see it as healing. The mind clears itself when given space. Another important shift is understanding that rest improves moral judgment. Studies show tired brains make poorer decisions. Impulse control weakens under mental fatigue. Unplugging protects not just productivity, but character. Philosophy has long warned against constant busyness. Ancient thinkers viewed rest as clarity, not escape. A restless mind loses perspective. A rested mind sees truth more clearly. From a religious lens, constant overwork often reflects lack of trust. Trust that outcomes do not depend solely on your effort. Trust that pauses do not erase purpose. Rest becomes an act of faith, not laziness. There is also a social illusion we must address. Many people appear busy because they are distracted, not effective. Noise is mistaken for progress. Silence is mistaken for absence. When you unplug, you step out of this illusion. You begin measuring life by depth instead of speed. Depth requires space. Space requires permission to pause. A practical way to make unplugging easier is to create closure before resting. Write down what you'll return to later. This signals the brain that nothing is being abandoned. Closure reduces mental looping and guilt. Another helpful practice is naming your rest. Instead of saying, "I'm wasting time," say, "I'm resetting." Language shapes perception. Perception shapes emotion. Over time, this changes how your nervous system reacts. Stress responses weaken.com. Responses strengthen. This is neuroplasticity in action. You may notice resistance at first. That resistance is not you. It is conditioning. Years of pressure don't disappear in days. Consistency matters more than intensity. Remember, unplugging is not an all-or-nothing decision. You don't need perfect balance. You need honest balance. Even imperfect rest is better than none. As guilt fades, something surprising happens. You become more present when you work. Focus improves because the mind trusts it. We'll get to rest later. Rest and effort stop fighting each other. This creates a healthier identity. You stop defining yourself by output alone. You begin seeing yourself as a human, not a machine. This reduces inner conflict. One final reminder is crucial. If rest feels uncomfortable, you are not broken. You are recovering from overload. Discomfort is often the doorway to balance. So the next time you unplug, don't rush to justify it. Don't explain it. Don't explain it. Don't apologize to yourself. Let rest be simple. Ask yourself this final question. What kind of life am I building if I never allow myself to stop? A meaningful life includes pauses. Without them, everything blurs. Unplugging without guilt is not giving up control. It is choosing wisdom over pressure. It is choosing longevity over burnout. And it is choosing yourself without shame.